Hi, welcome to Caregiver Cast. My name is Mary Elaine Petrucci, your host. My guest today is Paul Levin, who's an emotional breakthrough mentor, and he will be talking about just how you can make your life much better. So before I formally introduce Paul, I would just like to let everyone know about him. Paul Levin is an emotional breakthrough mentor, author, and speaker. He's a certified hypnotist and certified NLP practitioner specializing in belief systems. Paul believes that we are all hurting from childhood and other traumas. When the pain of those traumas is resolved, you are empowered to manifest the life you want. Paul teaches how you can quickly and easily trade a life of emotional pain, frustration, and struggle for a life filled with more smiles, inner peace, and being in love with your life every day. Welcome, Paul, to Caregiver Cast.
Thank you so much, Mary Elaine. How are you today?
I am doing well. Getting ready for the 4th of July. What about you?
Same here, same here.
All right. I love the name of your book.
Thank you.
Your Life Sucks No More. So can you tell our audience the name of your company and what that means to you, please?
I'd be happy to. And I want to throw in one little thing to the title of the book. There's a pregnant pause in there. So it's Your Life Sucks No More.
Oh, thank you.
because my life did suck. And it doesn't anymore. And hence the name of the book. And so what had happened is most of my life had sucked. I really had, you and I been having a conversation maybe 10 years ago. I might be telling you about all the things going wrong in my life and how everything is horrible and like that. And for over 50 years, my life was that way. And I was sitting in my office one day and I'm asking myself, why does life have to suck so much? And I got an answer. It was loud, it was audible. It was like someone was yelling it in my ear from over my shoulder. And what it said was, it doesn't have to. Now at the time, that just pissed me off more, right?
Exactly. I think it would do the same for me, Paul.
Right? You know, like,
Yeah,
well,
like if it doesn't have to suck, then why don't you tell me how to make it better?
Or why didn't you tell me that 50 years ago, you know,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
But the voice was so compelling that I made a decision that night that if life really didn't have to suck, that I would recreate my life from scratch. And this time I'd be happy. So truth to be told, I stepped out of my office. Everything was the same in my house. And so I took the decision and put it on a shelf and did nothing with it for 5 more years. 5 years.
Oh my gosh, Paul, I don't know if I would do it really quickly or if I would wait too. Go ahead.
So fast forward 5 years and everything had changed. We had sold that house. We'd gotten divorced. My kids were growing and on their own. And I and the dog moved into a little house that I had rented. And I turned to the dog one afternoon and I said, Foxy, do you remember that decision we made like 5 years ago? And she looked up at me and said, of course I do, Dad. And Foxy didn't talk. And I said, Foxy, what are we going to do about it? And she said, I don't know. What are you going to do about it? Which means, oh my gosh, now I've got to do something about it.
Yes.
Right? And I started to step out of my comfort zone. At 57, I enrolled in anatomy and physiology, a college undergrad class.
Wow.
Not an easy class.
No, it's not. I've taken it myself.
Taken it. And what was really cool is I loved it. And I got an A, which was shocking to me.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And that began the process of changing my life. I came back, after the course, I flew off to learn something else. and spent money for a weekend workshop. Again, something I'd never done in my life before that point. When I came back from that, there in the pile of mail that accumulated while I was away was a postcard for the T. Harv Eker Millionaire Mind Intensive, another weekend workshop, and local, free. So it's like, it's a sign, I've got to go, right?
Right, exactly.
Right? And I'm sitting there all weekend long, loving it, loving every minute of it, except for when they were selling other programs. The last day, they're selling the big package for $10,000, 2 years of workshops. Never spent that kind of money on anything more than a house or a car. And yet, every cell of my being is telling me to get up, go to the back of the room, and sign up and purchase that course, that program, which I did. And to speed the story along, that 2-year program turned into 3 years because they're selling more every time you go to one.
Right.
And it totally, completely transformed my life. So I'll give you one last piece of the story here.
Okay.
Fast forward now 3 years. It's 2 a.m. I'm driving home from the karaoke bar. I started singing karaoke during the 3 years. And I had the most spectacular day. I mean, that had happened in the morning and it didn't work out the way I planned it, but it worked out perfect. Then that happened in the afternoon and I didn't plan that at all, but it worked out perfect. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm living a life where everything just works out perfect. That's when spirit, right? How many in the audience know who spirit is, right? Spirit tells me to pull the car off to the side of the road. And I do. And spirit says, so you're living a life where everything works out perfect, huh? Yeah, it's amazing. And spirit says, great. Now you can go teach others how to do it. I come, right, from a life that sucked to a life where everything works out perfect. That's what I do now, is teach people how to do it.
Wow. Okay, so what did you do differently to go from a life that sucks to a life that's much better for you?
Okay, let's kind of review the steps, because the first step is a decision. Make a decision that you want something better, that what you have right now is no longer acceptable to you and you intend to change it. That's not a lot of work. It just happens all up here, right? It's a decision.
I know it's hard to talk ourselves into that decision, though.
It is, and that's why I'm here to help with that decision, right? That is the very first step. The second step is to start stepping out of your comfort zone. Do these things that are going to be uncomfortable. Why? Because everything that you want is outside your comfort zone. It's outside the box, right?
You're right.
And again, this doesn't have to be hard. I mean, I just, decided I would go take a class, and it wasn't hard. It was fun. The third step gets more serious. Now you want to start finding out, what do you want to change? How do I change it? This is called personal growth. And I took hundreds and hundreds of hours of personal growth workshops, read hundreds of hours of books, listened to hundreds of hours of audio cassette tape, right? It wasn't, well, I guess we had MP3s back then and MP4s too. So that was the process of change. That is the process of change. And one day you wake up and life is different. Life is perfect. Life is wonderful.
It seems like it needs to be a little bit more involved than that. Paul, not to dismiss what you said, however, okay, so was there a sign or indication to you somewhere along the journey that you were going on the right journey with all these personal growth programs that you were enrolled in?
Well, the sign, if I won't say there was a sign, But what I will say is the sign is inside. So
Mm-hmm.
like when I had said before that I was sitting in the weekend workshop, the T. Harv Eker Millionaire Mind Intensive weekend workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and they're selling these courses throughout the weekend, and I'm not buying them because I'm not resonating with them. On the last day, they're selling this big package that included all those others. And every cell in my being told me to get up and go to the back of the room and purchase it.
Mm.
That's the sign. That was the resonation, the resonating with it. That was the connection that's like, yeah, that's it. That's what I've been looking for.
Right. It's just like the postcard that you had.
Right. The postcard was there, right? You know, it just showed up in the mail when I happened to be away on the other thing, right? On the other trip, right? Why didn't it show up 2 months earlier or 2 months later? Because that was the right timing for it.
Okay. Take me through some of the 4-step process if I was one of your clients. So can you give me a little, I know that you can't share the whole program, and I understand that, but just to give some like basic outline of how you go about helping someone create this perfect life?
Yes. Well, what had happened and what I had learned even after my own realization of the new life that I was living, what I learned is it has to do with our beliefs. I want to give a little background to that. During the time that my life sucked, those 50 years, most of my life, I lived in severe pain,
Mm.
varying degrees of pain. Let's just put it that way. All right. Mostly spinal pain, neck, back, muscle, neck, shoulders, upper and middle back. I had stomach problems from vertebra being out of the place in the middle of the back. I lived with a lot of pain.
Mm.
And one of the things that I sought through my life is ways to get rid of my physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that process began for me with the chiropractor. And I was seeing a chiropractor 3 times a week for over 20 years.
Wow.
And I began to ask myself somewhere towards the end of those 20 years or 30 years or so that I asked, why do I have to keep going back to the chiropractor?
Mm-hmm.
Now I understand why, and I understand what the process is, but I said, is there a modality that is the cause of what the chiropractor is fixing? And I found a modality called upper cervical chiropractic. And all they do is they adjust C1 and C2, which are the top 2 bones of the spine, right? But they
Mm-hmm.
do it to computer level precision. They use ultrasound to move the bones of the spine into place, rather than the chiropractor who uses physical manipulation.
Okay.
Both work, they just work to different degrees. And what's interesting is the upper cervical chiropractor person tells me, well, yeah, but when we adjust C1 and C2 to this precision, the rest of the spine starts adjusting itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I found a causal relationship there. So then I said, all right, well, but why do I have to keep going to the upper cervical practitioner over and over again, right? And
Right.
I found a thing called cranial release, which is the adjusting of the bones of the skull,
Mm.
27 bones of the skull. And they've discovered about, well, now it's probably about 30, 40 years ago, they discovered a very easy to do technique for doing that.
Mm.
And I started doing that. I started going to the cranial release practitioner month after month and going back month after month. And it's like, so listen, why does my skull go out of alignment every month? Why am I back here every month? What's causing that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, stress. My eyes almost popped out of my head because we just made a major shift from the body into the mind,
Mm.
from pain
Correct.
in the body into a process in the mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mental
Right.
stress. So then I said, all right, well, what's the cause of mental stress? Because I'm seeking the ultimate root cause of my pain, right? And I was able to trace that down to beliefs.
Mm.
One of the things I learned along the way is almost every physical ailment in the body begins in the mind, right? So if it's beliefs, then how do we change beliefs? And that's what I focused my work on. And it turns out that once you find the underlying causal belief of a situation, of a problem, of whatever it is that's ailing you, concerning you, we can change that belief in about 30 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it cascades right back up. And I can tell a kind of a funny story about that if you'd like.
Sure, please.
All righty, great. It was probably about, I don't know, 6 years ago now, where one summer in the space of one summer, I got 3 speeding tickets.
What were
Right?
you doing, Paul?
Well, I do like to drive fast, and I do own a car that has a very powerful engine. But I did have to ask myself after the 3rd ticket, I had to say, listen, this is not working for me. So why do I keep getting tickets, and why do I keep speeding, and what's going on with me? And I looked at some of the things that I believed about traffic and about other drivers. One of the things I used to say back then is all it takes is for someone to sneeze and we'll have a 50-car pileup, right? And the reason I would speed is to get away from the other cars. Once I was out in the open and there was nobody near me, I could slow down. I didn't care what speed I was going. I'd set the cruise and I'd be happy as a clam, right? So the question is, why am I speeding? Because I had a fear, a deep-seated belief that it was dangerous for me to be next to another car. When I realized that fear, I then addressed that fear with some core beliefs that I teach in my course, that I have nothing to fear. And I realized we can say that right now. That's going to take about 3 hours of working together for us to get to that point. All right. But I was able to, at that point, say, I have nothing to fear. And once I realized that, the fear went away, and so did the speeding, and I haven't had a speeding ticket since.
I wish I had come to that realization a whole lot sooner. It's taken me a long time to get here, if you know what I mean. So how long does someone work with you then when you go over all these beliefs?
Well, at this point, I now have an entire product line, and everything from the free ebook, which we'll talk about shortly, all the way up to the flagship, which is a 12-week course. And the 12-week course transforms people's lives. It's divided into 2 parts. The first 6 weeks, we're doing teaching. So it's kind of like me talking and you're listening mostly. However, one of the things I am doing while I'm talking is I'm watching my student's face. Why is that? Because every thought that occurs in the mind, every emotional thought that occurs in the mind shows up as a muscle movement in the face. So as I'm speaking, I'm watching your face to watch for a reaction. And the instant I see something, I'm going to stop and say, what was that? Because it was a thought that passed through your head, and if I wait, it's going to be gone.
Right.
So I'm going to stop and I'm going to say, what was that thought? And you're going to tell me, and now we're going to dig into that thought so we can get to the belief underneath it. Because that's the whole objective, is to change these underlying beliefs.
Okay. Wow. So give the audience some idea of the type of person that would come to you to work on their beliefs and to change their lives.
At the highest level, and then I'll talk at a secondary level. At the highest, simplest level, we could say it's anyone who is not happy with their life and wants something to change, wants their life to be different.
Mhm.
At the next level down, there are characteristics of people who come to me. I find that if you're familiar with DISC, which is the DISC,
Mhm.
it's a method of identifying people into 4 categories.
Right.
And S is the servant, or the
Mhm.
caregiver, or the one who gives of themselves for others. That's the teachers, the nurses, the doctors. Anybody who's in that space tends to be, okay, there are exceptions, tends
Right.
to be a person who gives themselves up for
Mm.
others. The problem is that when they do that, their lives, doesn't go well. They often give up so much of themselves that they've put themselves, they became their own sacrificial lamb. Okay.
Mhm.
And those are the people who I very much want to help, because they can serve others still and do so joyfully and happily and love their life while they're doing it, instead of beginning to get run down and burnt out, and because that'll then eat their own health up, and then who's going to take care of them? Right.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's
Yeah.
just like a caregiver. They burn themselves out and then they wonder why, because they don't do any self-care or ask for help. The two things that they need to do.
Yeah, very much so.
So,
Actually, if I could jump in one
sure.
last thought.
Sure.
So I'm speaking now to each individual person in the audience. You are your priority, not the
Oh,
job, not the person you're caring for. You
awesome.
are your priority. Then you've got the other person you're caring for.
Awesome advice. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yes, you have to take care of yourself before you can help someone else. Definitely. What can our audience start doing today to increase their happiness and change their lives?
Well, there's one very simple technique that I tell everybody that they need to do, and it's this. Take 15 minutes every day, and do something that puts a smile on your face. It doesn't have to be complex or expensive. It could be a walk in the park. It could be a walk around the block. I like music. So I
Mhm.
begin every morning with the radio on, and I sing to the music often. So just do anything that puts a smile on your face for 15 minutes every day. That alone will change
Okay, wonderful. What 3 takeaways can you give our audience for today about
your life. Well,
improving their lives?
yeah. I mean, that exercise for number 1.
Mhm.
Number 2, remember that you're your priority. You're your top priority.
Mm,
Um, there's a decision I made probably 4 years ago, which is this: I am more important than my business. Ooh, that's like almost anathema to an entrepreneur,
yes,
right?
right.
Okay.
Well,
However,
it's true.
yeah, it's the truth though. You are more important than your job and your business and the person you're caring for. Thirdly, come from that. I mean, we're gonna. Would you like me to offer the giveaway?
Sure, please
Okay,
go right
great.
ahead.
So let's make that number 3. I am offering a free copy of my ebook. The book is entitled "Your Life Sucks No More," because it doesn't have to suck ever again. And you can get, and I know we're going to have the link up later, but you
Mhm.
can get the book at the website and these are full words. So I'd love, if you're listening in, please say the full words right now with me. And they are: I deserve
Serve
a perfect
perfect
life.
life.
And that's going to be ideserveaperfectlife.com. Just go there, the picture of the book's right there on the homepage, click on it, and just request to download a free copy.
Awesome. I think people would really be encouraged to begin to think of themselves more frequently, and so they can so their life doesn't suck anymore,
Amen.
and they can learn to love themselves and the person that they're caring for.
Yes.
Definitely. So how can people contact you if they want to know more about how they can change their life that sucks?
The simplest way to contact me is through the website.
Okay.
At that homepage, you scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a button to click to meet with Paul. Somewhere on that homepage is my phone number, an email. I'm not quite sure where that is, but it's somewhere on the homepage, probably near the bottom.
Okay, great. So they can also get in touch with you at paul@ideserveaperfectlife.com or your website. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your personal experience and how people can make those small changes, like doing a 15-minute meditation or just doing something that will allow them to give more freely. So thank you so much for coming on and letting our audience know that your life doesn't have to suck anymore. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mary Elaine. Thank you. Okay.
So Paul, can you explain how you use NLP and hypnosis during your 12-week training program?
Actually, I do not use them. And I was asked that. I was interviewed recently on a podcast show that was all about hypnosis. In fact, I spoke at a hypnosis conference, and one of the attendees has a show, and I was a guest of his, and he asked me that same question. They were shocked to find out that I did not use hypnosis to change people's lives. I prefer to speak to the conscious mind. I want you fully conscious and aware, because the truth is, now, all right, so now I'm going to contradict what I just said a second ago, because the truth is, we're all hypnotized 80% of our lives anyway.
Correct.
So I don't have to hypnotize you. All I have to do is tell you a story. And when I tell you a story, you're already in a state of hypnosis. And now I'm able to speak to the part of the mind that is not critical, that is not filtering, and allows me to just feed joy and happiness and empowerment to. So that's the extent that I'm aware of hypnosis, but I'm not using it. See what I'm saying?
Yes. Well, those power up. Well, exactly. I think you said it really correctly. It's like we're all walking around in a state of trance, and that really affects our perception or our intentions for the day. And yeah, stories or metaphors do make a difference. So you are using hypnosis in NLP in a slightly different way.
Exactly.
So, yeah, okay. Thank
One
you.
of the things I like to say about stories, the mind loves a story. So much so that if it doesn't have one, it will make one up. And that's your life.
Yes, it makes it up, makes that story for you instead of you doing it consciously or unconsciously. So you are more aware and more awake about what you're doing. Okay. Thank you so much for that answer. I appreciate it.